Hey guys, Invader Kim here with a new video about Pax Day. This guide will cover baking in early access. Baking has some interesting stat food you can use and is worth pushing up for high level content. A lot of NPCs in this game deal slash damage, and baking holds the highest slash resistance foods you can make. I'm currently leveling my baking trade skill, so I have been looking at what recipes will be the cheapest to craft to get you the most XP for your time and resources. To start baking, you will need a bread oven, mill, fermenter, and cooking workbench. You will also be using a lot of water, tallow, and lard, so having a couple water wells and the cooking hearth will be helpful. You can also utilize the furnaces and looms for the lower levels. Baking takes some preparation. You will need to make yeast in the fermenter and flours in the mills before you can do any crafting for this trade. You will always need yeast, so make sure you're queuing up as much yeast as you can at all times. Yeast requires rye flour, so you'll need rye flour queuing as well. These both have a 1-hour craft time, so it helps to have multiple mills and fermenters, especially if you're pushing winemaking and brewing as well. We have like 4 grain mills, 2 millstones, 6 basic fermenters, 1 fermenter, and 4 beehives going at our base to stockpile everything we need for baking and brewing. This can obviously be scaled up or down depending on your personal or clan's needs. We put down a bunch of the queued benches in all of our trades to split our resources into them for faster completion time, then remove extras once we don't have as much of a demand for them anymore. Some extra materials for more mills and fermenters is an easy solution to 1-hour queues on anything you want to craft in it. You can really cut down prep time by having everything spread out into multiple crafters instead of just stacking one station completely full. We do try to stack it all the way if we're going offline for the night with whatever leftover materials we have at the time. I'm going to show you 2 options for levels 1 to 9. One will seem weird, but it's just another option you could use to level and not waste as much yeast, flour, and time. The traditional option is to make rye dough to level 3, then plain rye bread to level 5. Then you can make rye and grapes bread to level 8. The second option is to queue up a bunch of coarse linen cloth on your looms and some iron ingots in your furnaces to turn into iron bars. This will take some preparation for these, but depending on where you're located, it might be easier to find impure iron deposits and flax than finding a bunch of rye and grapes. This is the method I am personally using, as I am leveling my winemaking at the same time, and the amount of yeast and flours you need for both of these trades is ridiculous. You can level from 1 to 9 off the grain mill plans alone, located in the carpenter's workbench, or even a mixture of the first few levels off dough and breads and supplement the grain mill plans to level 9. Just figure out what works best for you depending on what materials you have more of. From 8 or 9, you will want to queue up a bunch of oat, barley, and wheat flours, and as always, more yeast. You'll make oat dough and plain oat bread to level 13. I feel like these recipes should be reversed because the dough is a level 13 craft, but this first oat bread is level 11. Just alternate and make bread with the doughs you get until you hit 13. Oats and rye bread will get you to level 15. Make sure to start queuing up barley flour here, as you'll need a ton of barley doughs for the next crafts. This is actually where crafts swap from requiring 1 dough per craft into 10 doughs per craft for some breads, so make sure you're looking at recipe costs. You will make trail pie to level 18. This does cost more dough, but trail pie is the highest slash resistance buff food you can make, so it's worth using materials on. A lot of NPCs deal slash damage, and this food is pretty nice to boost your resistance to their attacks. You'll want to queue up wheat flour here, as the next couple crafts require wheat. Don't forget to keep making yeast. You can get to 21 off wheat dough, then to 23 off plain wheat bread. Queue up some barley flour and doughs, and make plain barley bread to level 28. The rest of the crafts from here onwards require wheat dough, oat grain, and malt, which is made with barley grain. There's actually a recipe you can't make that you should F8 and report. With the launch of Early Access, they have removed raisins as a craft for some reason in cooking. Those were a useful stamina food that was cheap to make, but it's also in the wheat raisin bread recipe at level 34. That would have been the recipe to spam up for XP for cheapest material cost, but since you currently cannot craft raisins, you have to use other recipes to get past 28. You can make sweetened dessert to level 31, then use plain malt bread to level 38. After that, you are capped out on levels until they make more recipes. Is it really needed to push to 38 on baking? Probably not. The level 31 sweetened dessert bread can be very useful to pair with the trail pie for slash resistance, so getting that high is probably nice to do if you have the time and materials. The difference between that sweetened dessert and the max level one is very minimal stats-wise. With the unobtainable raisin craft to level with less materials, I plan to just push to 28 and stockpile some of the level 31 sweetened desserts for our dungeon runs and leave it at that. Have you leveled baking yet in early access? If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe so you can stay up to date when I release a new video. As always, I'll be back with another video soon.